You're welcome to another episode of Wellbeing here on AD4 TV Radio. I am Anthonyetta Kalunta. At some point, we may find ourselves involved with the topic of mental health. We may be affected personally or empathetic towards loved ones who may have mental health challenges. There is no doubt that the level of awareness we have on the topic will aid us on what to say, how to act, and what we can do to help. To enlighten us on how we can improve the level of our awareness on mental health, we're being joined by Andrew Samuel Bumba, who is a mental health therapist with a wealth of knowledge in counseling and coaching focal group discussions. It's such a pleasure to have you join us today.
Thank you.
So moving right into it, I think for the basics, it's always what really is mental health. So for you, what is mental health?
Well, mental health is actually a state of mind of an individual at which it determines its well-being, level of thinking, and in essence, his whole health capacity. So if we're talking about mental health, we are talking about the state of mind of an individual.
Okay, so what is the significance of having a particular day set aside to, create awareness? Why not all through the year, or what is the significance of the day, World Mental Health Day?
Well, the significance of World Mental Health Day is to create awareness to people that don't know much about mental health, and some people actually are going through issues of mental health, but in essence, they don't actually know that issue or is an issue in their life. So we create awareness on the World Health Mental Day to enlighten people and to bring out all other forms of discrimination and stigmatization away from people.
Okay, so what factors make people, we're talking about awareness, but for basic diseases, at least the ones that affect the body, we're not so keen on those awareness. What makes people so lackadaisical when it comes to their mental health that people don't really pay that much attention to it?
The whole issue surrounding mental health, like I said earlier, is the issue of stigmatization and discrimination. People don't pay much attention to their mental health because of the myths surrounding it, because of how, most especially in our country, Nigeria, how people take issues of mental health. Sometimes we believe it's a spiritual cause. Sometimes we believe it's a form of abuse or sort of to an individual. That's why people don't pay much attention to issues surrounding mental health.
Okay, one key thing you mentioned right now are the myths. Are there some myths you would like to share on mental health to help us debunk?
Well, there are quite a lot of myths around mental health, but the one I would like us to pay much attention or I'll talk more about is the issue of spirituality surrounding mental health. When we talk about the issue of spirituality surrounding mental health, it is in essence sometimes being nailed to either you have done certain things and then you are suffering from its consequences. That's the major myth surrounding mental health in Nigeria.
So for the very spiritual or religious person, coming from the fact that Nigeria is said to be a religious society, how would you expect one to address issues that have to do with mental health? Supposing a family has someone who is beginning to act a little off, what should be the right turn of action?
Well, the right turn of action on this should be to seek for counseling, to seek for help. If it's up to the level of going to a hospital, then I think the person should visit a psychiatric also. But first of all, showing love and concern to someone in the family actually helps a lot on the issue of mental health. Counseling, having a therapist talk to you on one-on-one is actually one of the fastest way of solving issues of mental health.
I believe for many people, the first thing would usually be the fear that, because there is this widespread notion that a lot of people who have mental health challenges or moving down to the mentally ill can be violent. So for many people, they would prefer, you lock them in chains or keep them away. How would you address the notion that people with mental health challenges are violent?
Well, that is a very big mistake. When we talk about mental health, not anybody with mental health is violent to start with. And when whatsoever anybody is violent, that means it has attained or it has reached certain level of that the person require like professional treatment on that issue. So the main thing that we need to look at is to try as much as possible to know the level at which the person have gone or have suffered with mental health. If the person is violent, you are not supposed to put anybody in chains because he is sick. That's not correct. That's not right.
Right.
So if in places like Australia, there are mental health acts that have actually are against any form of restriction or trying to put anybody in chain. No, you don't do that. There are ways at which you treat the person. Even if it means restraining the person, there are specific ways at which you are supposed to restrain anybody that is violent with mental health. Not all this putting somebody in chain, locking somebody in the room. That's not going to be helpful for that person.
For the particular person.
Yeah.
I do agree. Now, going back to what you said not every person who has mental health challenges is violent. So are there ways you categorize mental health issues? Are there types?
Yes, there are levels at which you categorize mental health, and there are types of mental health issues. As simple as somebody being, although in quote, I'm not supposed to say as simple as, but anybody that is suicidal has mental health issue. Anybody that is depressed has mental health issue. Anybody that is lonely and is feeling a form of rejection has mental health issues. Trauma, they are all mental health issues. But when we come to schizophrenia and the rest, that's when we are attaining the level at which the cases are being more serious. That is why we need more awareness on this. It's not somebody that has to be in chain or violent also that is suffering from mental health. No, as we are talking with you, it's very possible that either myself or you have mental health issues. And unless you talk to somebody, you will not know.
You will not know, definitely. But I think one major thing for a lot of people, especially Nigerians, is the attribution of mental health to madness. So is there a way you can differentiate both? Are they the same to help people not, you mentioned depression. Now, a person who is depressed will not like you to say he's mad.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of people avoid seeing psychiatrists. People will just assume that something is wrong. So is there a difference, and what are the clear differences?
Well, like I've said, mental health is mental health. Whether you are mad, whether you are going through a lot of issues in your head, you have mental health issues. The only thing left is for us to know that, okay, this is an issue and we need to address it as such. So somebody running on the street has already attained a different level of mental health. That could be from drug misuse. That could be, in quote, I don't want the issue of spirituality or religion, but it could be that. That could be from rejection and a lot of things. It grows in phases. You can start from depression and then gradually you escalate and it will go to another level. But mental health is actually mental health.
So we've been speaking about so many myths, and I feel the next thing we need to talk about for our society are the things that encourage these kinds of myths. So do you know anything that encourages the myths we have, especially in Africa here?
Yeah, it's still lack of awareness. Had it been people have been sensitized well about mental health, that will actually reduce drastically. And then still issue of religion and spirituality. It also encourages the myth behind mental health issues. The main force and the main fight here, or the main campaign here, is to create awareness so that people will know that this is not really a spiritual thing. This is not, in quote, a spiritual or religion thing that made somebody run mad, that made somebody feel shattered, depressed, and the rest. So we still have to go back to our main issue of awareness and sensitization.
Okay, definitely. This is Wellbeing, and we're about to take a quick break. We're here with Andrew Samuel Bumba, who's a mental health therapist with a wealth of knowledge in counseling and coaching focal group discussions, and is helping us today to debunk the myths surrounding mental health awareness. When we come back from this break, we'll be talking about the ways we can ensure that these myths are properly debunked and more people have better level of awareness. Stay with us. You're welcome back from that break. This is Wellbeing here on 84 TV Radio, and today we are discussing the myths around mental health and ways in which we can improve on our mental health awareness. With me is Andrew Samuel Bumba, who is a mental health therapist and one with adequate knowledge in counseling and coaching focal group discussions. Just before we went on the break, he was telling us about the ways in which we encourage various myths surrounding mental health. Now, can we move to the elimination? What can we actively do to ensure that we are debunking those myths? Like in our everyday activities, what do I say when someone brings up a myth? What do I do? What specific actions can I carry out to ensure that I'm doing my own quota to, debunk those myths?
Well, as individuals, we need to understand the difference between the actual myth and then the main mental health issues. I'm not against the whole myth issue that we mentioned, but the little we can contribute as individuals in the society in our day-to-day issues is to stop stigmatization and discrimination. Whensoever we come across anybody going through or suffering under such conditions, we're supposed to rather encourage the person and speak nicely to the person, not to show rejection to anybody with that kind of issue. Then the person suffering from that issue may believe that it's actually a myth, or it may believe it's actually a spiritual reason that made him
that way.
So we need to actually tell the person that no, this is not it. It's actually a condition that you can go through and it will be over. So I believe counseling, talking to person nicely, not showing rejection, and then saying the truth to the individual that this is not it and this is the way out, it will be okay, you'll be fine. It's actually a way of, or it's actually a sort of way of an individual or anybody talking that whole myth issue out.
Okay, so when we come to the issue of children, we've spoken about creating awareness, and for most part of what we see, especially on the Mental Health Awareness Day, there's awareness on social media everywhere. What about children? Are there ways we can get this awareness to children, and are there people already doing that?
Yeah, there are people already doing that, like I think Quinterpreneur, an organization that talk about mental health to children in, like I think children between the ages of 9 and 16. I'm certain Quinterpreneur, yeah, it's an organization run by one Tessie. So they drew my attention to that, on how to talk to children on mental health issues and to talk out the whole issues of myths surrounding the
So how specifically do you carry out this talk to children, bearing in mind that they're children now? What are the modes you use?
With their level, we usually carry out we use diagrammatic approach sometimes, and sometimes if you talk to them, they can be able to explain or up to certain level that you will understand that they know certain things about mental health. They will not actually understand the whole issue of mental health in quote. Yeah, they may not understand it, but you have to talk to them. If you see their own level of understanding, that will determine the approach you are going to use in talking to them. I believe there are some that we use some drawings, simple drawings, like a stepwise drawing that will take them through, and they will believe like, okay, there's an issue with so person behaving like this. So what will you do to this person? So it's simple as, if you see a person in school always keeping quiet, as a child you may be able to talk to him, be his friend, what is happening, to try and socialize and interact with them. And children too know a lot about stigmatization and discrimination. So when you talk to them about stigmatization and discrimination, they sometimes, to some extent, understand. And then they have that idea, or they grow up with the idea or with the knowledge of mental health.
It is said that when one is experiencing things like this, it's easier for people on the outside to spot that, okay, maybe you're reclining to yourself or something is changing. So for the particular individual, are there signs for you to know that, okay, at this point, I think I'm experiencing some mental health challenges?
Yeah, you will know that you are going through mental health if only you are aware that, okay, these are signs and symptoms of mental health.
Okay.
But if you don't know, if you don't know the signs and symptoms, sometimes it's somebody outside that will actually tell you that, okay, I think something is wrong with you.
Okay, so what are those signs and symptoms really that you should?
It all starts with isolation, depression, mood swings. You know, there are certain things that you usually do that you find yourself not actually doing them. So that means you're actually going through something. It's not every time that you feel here, but then if it goes for a long period of time, like you start isolating yourself, you're a social person, then you start facing, you understand, withdrawal syndrome and the rest. Those are the basic signs you need to watch out to know that you are going through or you're suffering from any form of mental
health challenge. So basically, when we get to that point, what is the first call of action? So immediately I withdraw, should I just go to see a doctor, or what should I really do first?
No, actually, going to a doctor, a psychiatrist, is actually the last option in mental health. But help seeking that that's the whole I want to talk about help seeking, which people are actually running away from, is what is contributing to the whole mental health issues. So if you start noticing change as an individual, I advise that you seek for help. Help seeking is simply talking to somebody. At that stage, you don't actually need to look for a professional. You can just, as much as you can, just say it out. Talk to somebody about what you are going through, and that will actually help you a lot. In case if it did not work out that way, that's when you need the help of a counselor, a mental health therapist, and the rest. If they talk to you, always you talking to them, it contributes a lot. And if you're lucky, you'll be okay. But then if it continues and goes to another stage, that's when you need to see a doctor. And seeing a doctor doesn't really mean you have psychosis or so.
Okay.
That's
seeing one myth we need to actually talk about.
It doesn't really mean that they will admit you this one or that one. A mental health therapist cannot give you medication, cannot administer medication to you. And to some extent, he may not be able to categorize your level of the level of the condition at which you are going through. So in conjunction or in collaboration with a doctor, that's when they may be able to develop a care plan and counseling stages, or if you need medication for that, they will be able to offer medication for you.
So what are the kinds of medication over time or over the years of your experience you've seen them administer to certain patients?
Well, there are quite a number of them that I will actually not like to mention.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not professional to mention the medication being administered to.
All right, because basically what I want to know is for the audience to be aware of the treatment process. So what should they be expecting when you go to the doctor in collaboration with the mental health therapist? What kind of treatment should you be expecting?
Most of the times is a care plan, actually. If you meet a doctor, a care plan will be designed for you. And probably at that stage, if you are going through certain things, it actually have to do with depression most of the times. So you may be given some antidepressant medications that you'll be taking. It's not really an issue, but it's just the whole belief we have surrounding mental health.
So on a final note, I'd like to know what your words are for mental health awareness. What would you like people to know?
Well, mental health is actually beyond the way we are seeing it. Mental health is a very big topic that we need to pay much attention to. We need the government support to give to come up with certain conditions for mental health issues. We need them to bring out certain principles or certain rules. So we actually need to start talking about mental health issues, stages of mental health, types of issues surrounding mental health. You don't have to be mad to have mental health. You may be in your house going through depression. It's actually a mental health challenge.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. It's been an interesting discussion with Andrew Samuel Bumba, who is a mental health therapist with a wealth of knowledge in counseling and coaching focal group discussions. Thank you for staying till the end of this episode. I am Anthonyetta Kalunta. Until I hit your screen again, remember, there is no health without mental health.